Joe strolled through the tranquil kitchen, clutching his cigar firmly as he trimmed its tip. Observing that his wife had already taken the wine bottle and glasses out to the pool deck, he grinned. Tonight promises to be delightful, he mused. With the kids away for the night, Joe and his wife Melissa anticipated an evening of intimacy, including their favorite activity of skinny dipping, likely followed by passionate moments. Joe harbored hopes for an outdoor encounter. Melissa tended to embrace her adventurous side when alcohol was involved, opening up possibilities like outdoor intimacy, anal sex, and even once daring Joe to explore new territory with a rim job. Under lowered inhibitions, they often indulged in playful games like Truth or Dare. 17 years into their marriage, Melissa still found herself captivated by Joe's presence. As he entered through the sliding door and paused to light his cigar, she admired him discreetly. He remained her ideal partner, his movements fluid and graceful. Their initial encounter, orchestrated by Melissa's friend Jerry, had left an indelible impression. Their meeting had been at Jerry's son's birthday party, where Joe's charisma and physical prowess had caught Melissa's eye. Despite her initial nerves, their introduction had been memorable, leading to a conversation that left Melissa smitten. Melissa recalled stirring potato salad when Joe approached her, introducing himself in a disarmingly charming manner. His revelation about their setup only deepened her fascination with him, confirming her belief that he was someone special. Their mutual attraction was undeniable, as they shared a moment of understanding and mutual appreciation. Melissa's amusement at Jerry's failed matchmaking attempts only strengthened their connection, affirming their compatibility beyond physical attraction. "Jerry's been mentioning you for months, Joe. You're quite the mystery, never showing up to any of her gatherings. I make it a point to attend, yet we've never crossed paths," Melissa remarked. Joe shrugged, downplaying his absence. "I wouldn't call myself a recluse. Just had a falling out with her brother Alex, so I tend to steer clear of events where he might be. Sometimes that means missing out on parties." Melissa nodded knowingly, aware of the history between Joe and Alex, who had an affair with Joe's ex-wife shortly after they married. "Well, I suppose it worked out in our favor that he relocated to Florida, then?" Joe's expression hardened at the mention of Alex. "How so?" The wound from Alex's betrayal still lingered. "We finally had the chance to meet," Melissa clarified, prompting a tentative smile from Joe, acknowledging the silver lining amidst the painful past. "It might have happened sooner," she continued, "but I ended a long-term relationship a few months back." Joe was familiar with this detail, courtesy of Jerry's matchmaking efforts. "I could use another beer," Joe declared. "Care to join me for a stroll and more conversation?" Their connection deepened over time, culminating in marriage a little over a year later. Returning to the present, Joe ascended the stairs to the pool deck, initiating a discussion about their evening plans. Melissa noticed his anticipation, reflected in the tightening of his swim trunks. She reciprocated his excitement, eager to indulge his desires. "Sinatra. Let's play the Love Songs playlist," she requested, setting the mood for the evening. Joe acquiesced, setting up the music while enjoying a sip of Cabernet. As they savored the moment, he expressed his appreciation for the evening's ambience, his touch conveying warmth and affection. Their conversation flowed as they contemplated a swim, both anticipating the intimacy it would bring. Without hesitation, Joe embraced her, their kiss infused with the taste of wine and desire. As they moved towards the pool, their passion ignited, culminating in a night of shared intimacy beneath the stars. With her legs spread wide before him, he delved into what he affectionately dubbed her muffin, tasting her puffy, slick lips. The scent of chlorine filled his senses, but it only enhanced the experience for him. He prided himself on his expertise in oral pleasure, and she gladly confirmed his skill. Taking his time, he savored every inch, methodically exploring her inner and outer lips before focusing on her clit. The symphony of his slurping elicited moans of pleasure from her lips. "Fuck yeah, Joey. Drive me wild. I want to taste myself on your lips," she urged, her fingers tangling in his hair. With one hand caressing her breast through her bikini top and the other skillfully working her tight walls, he brought her to the brink of ecstasy. As Sinatra crooned in the background, she reached her peak, her cries of ecstasy mingling with the music. "God, Joey. Don't stop," she exclaimed as her body trembled with release, the deck bearing witness to her pleasure. Returning to the warmth of the water, they shared a passionate kiss, her taste lingering on his lips. She expressed her gratitude for his skill, a silent acknowledgement of their enduring love. Taking a sip of wine, she playfully teased him about his still damp trunks, prompting a grin as he shed them. "Now, onto the deck," she commanded, her eyes smoldering with desire. With eager compliance, he positioned himself, his anticipation evident as she took him in hand. With each touch, each stroke, she fueled his arousal, her tongue tracing his length, igniting sensations he craved. "Someone's eager today," she remarked, relishing his response as she teased him with her lips and tongue. Lost in the moment, she dared him to indulge in a game of truth or dare, her question hanging in the air as she pleasured him with newfound intensity. "Sonia's the most beautiful, but Marcy's likely the wildest," he confessed between gasps of pleasure. Undeterred, she set out to fulfill his dare with gusto, her determination evident in her fervent ministrations. In a frenzy of passion, she brought him to the brink, her efforts rewarded as he succumbed to her touch, waves of pleasure coursing through him. 30 seconds, he breathed. With practiced finesse, she withdrew, a devilish grin playing on her lips. Skillfully, she teased him, sending shivers down his spine as she prepared to fulfill his dare. In a rush of ecstasy, he surrendered to her touch, his release cascading into her waiting mouth as she skillfully stimulated him. As the timer chimed, signaling the end of their playful challenge, she celebrated her victory with a triumphant smile. Entering the water, he enveloped her in a tender embrace, his words filled with love and adoration. "You'll always be my champion, baby. I love you." "I love you too, Joe." "Forever," she murmured in response. The following morning, over breakfast, Melissa broached the subject of their evening plans. "Joe, I forgot to ask you about joining Jerry, Sonia, and Marcy tonight," she began. He nodded, accustomed to their weekly routine of separate outings for the men and women, culminating in a joint gathering every 5th week. "This time, we're going to a club instead of a house," she explained. Joe's expression darkened. "You know I'm not a fan of that scene. You don't need to be around sleazy guys looking for trouble." "It's not like that, Joe. It's a male stripper show," she clarified, bracing for his reaction. He nearly choked on his coffee. "Strippers? Why would you want to go to something like that?" "We thought it would be fun. And it's a ladies-only event at the club," she reassured him. Before he could respond, his phone rang, Jerry's husband Don on the line. As Joe stepped away to take the call, Melissa reached out to Sonia, seeking her perspective on the evening's plans. "Brad doesn't care," Sonia revealed nonchalantly. "As long as he has his beer and sports, he's oblivious. He didn't even ask questions, just shrugged when I mentioned it's a strip club." With differing reactions from their partners, Melissa and Joe grappled with the decision, seeking assurance and understanding amidst conflicting emotions. "Wow. Looks like Jerry convinced Don too. He called Joe this morning, seemed like he was trying to persuade him." "Jerry must have worked some magic to get him on board," Melissa exclaimed. "She did. We had a chat this morning," Sonia chimed in. Both women erupted in laughter. "How did she like it?" Melissa inquired. "She loved it. From what she described, he's packing less heat than our men, but just the right size for her. She said it was the best she's ever had," Sonia shared. "Jerry, the newfound anal enthusiast. Who would have thought?" Melissa chuckled. "I'll let you know Joe's final decision. But if he says no, it's a no." "Not worth the hassle," Melissa asserted, prioritizing her marriage over a night of excitement. Melissa had little interest in a male review show, preferring not to risk her relationship for such an event. Having reviewed the website and weighed his options, Joe approached Melissa with his decision. "Mel?" She looked up from her phone, a smile lighting up her face. "Hey, handsome. I've decided. You can go to the show, but I'll be driving you there and back. Can't have you getting too drunk in the city," he stated firmly. "Thank you, honey. Your conditions are fair," Melissa replied gratefully. "Good. I'm off to mow the lawn," Joe announced, turning to leave. Wait, Melissa called out, moving closer to him. She reached for him, a mischievous glint in her eye. How about a quick favor before the kids get home? Joe smirked. Well, if you insist. As Melissa dropped to her knees, Joe couldn't help but grin. Joe observed the tipsy group of women exiting the club, a frown creasing his brow. Only been a few hours, he thought, concerned by their level of intoxication. How was the show, baby? He inquired as Melissa stumbled toward the car. Amazing, she slurred. You're in for a treat when we get home. He chuckled, listening to their excited chatter as they recounted the highlights of the evening. It all sounded harmless, mirroring the videos he'd seen. After dropping off the others, Joe struggled to guide his wife inside, hoping to avoid any awkward encounters with their children. The twins, at 15, were astute enough to recognize signs of intoxication. Joe knew any embarrassing behavior wouldn't escape their notice if it occurred. Guiding Melissa to their bedroom, he closed the door behind them. How much did you drink? He asked, concerned. Melissa collapsed onto the bed, arms splayed out. Lost count. They just kept bringing shots. Tasted like Kool-Aid, but some were patron, she confessed. As Joe picked up her purse from the floor, a receipt peeked out, revealing a hefty tab of $120. He was taken aback by the amount, pondering the multitude of shots consumed in just 2 hours. Returning to find Melissa asleep, he resigned himself to a quiet night. The following morning, Joe awoke to find Melissa had risen earlier and donned her nightgown, albeit backward. Chuckling to himself, he made his way to the kitchen where his sons were enjoying breakfast. Jack, those eggs look fantastic. You're getting quite skilled, Joe complimented, proud of his son's cooking prowess. Thanks, Dad. I'm working on perfecting my flipping technique, Jack replied with a grin. Joe turned to Jimmy, noticing his bleary-eyed appearance. You were up late, weren't you? Just gaming with the crew, Pop. No worries, Jimmy reassured. Make sure you get some rest tonight and finish your homework, Joe reminded him. Deciding against going out for coffee, Joe began making breakfast, the noise waking Melissa. Amused by her disheveled appearance, he chuckled as she entered the kitchen. Mom, I love the new nightgown look. Backward is way better, Jack teased. Realizing her fashion faux pas, Melissa flopped into a chair, Joe sliding her ibuprofen and water. Was going to make eggs, honey. Want an omelet? With extra bacon, please, Melissa requested. One bacon-loaded omelet coming up, Joe confirmed. Observing Melissa's hungover state, Jimmy fetched her robe while Joe cautioned the boys about the perils of excessive drinking. They chuckled, and Joe suggested, why don't you take a shower, honey? It might help. By the time you're done, your eggs will be ready. With a grunt, Melissa headed upstairs, prompting more laughter from the men. Later that afternoon, Jerry called, finding Melissa feeling almost back to normal. Mel, Marcy wants to have a stripper at her house on Saturday. Since we usually hang out there anyway, she wants to spice things up. No way, Jerry. I'm not into that. Watching them on stage was one thing, but having one dance close to you is another. Count me out if she goes through with it. Fair enough. Don wouldn't like it either. But let me tell you, I've been excited all day thinking about those banana hammocks from last night. Don's in for a treat tonight, that's for sure. They laughed, and Melissa confessed, I fell asleep on Joe last night. I owe him tonight, but I'm hungover and tired. I need to find some energy. You need to hydrate and caffeinate. Last thing you want to do is leave him hanging. Don't worry, I keep his balls drained. E.W. That's my cousin, Mel. You know you would have if he let you. After a shared laugh, Jerry joked, third cousins are pretty distant, right? They chuckled again before ending the call. Who's hosting the guys tonight, Joe? Melissa inquired the following Saturday. Don's got it tonight. Who? You'll be happy since Jerry lets him smoke in the basement. Exactly. Cigars, beers, and cards. Perfect night. I think I could make it even more perfect when we get home, Melissa hinted. Joe laughed. You might be onto something there. Have fun and stay out of trouble. You too, Melissa replied, leaving for Marcy's house, Joe watching her with a smile. As he glanced in the mirror while combing his hair, he reflected on their good life. Their kids were thriving, and both Joe and Melissa were content in their jobs. Life is good. Really good, he thought, smiling to himself. Arriving at Marcy's house, Melissa noticed more cars than usual, indicating a larger gathering. Feeling annoyed, she debated going home but spotted Jerry approaching and decided to confront her. What's going on, Jerry? You said Marcy wasn't getting a stripper. She told me she wasn't. Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe she's just having more people over. I'm not staying for a stripper, Melissa declared firmly. Me neither. Don't worry about it, Jerry assured her. Entering the house, they found a crowd of around 30 women spread out in various rooms. Spotting Marcy on the phone, they overheard her exclaiming, 15 minutes, girls. Woo, to the cheers of the gathered women. Melissa stormed over to Marcy, demanding, What the hell, Marcy? Hey! Relax. He's only here for an hour. You can go play bingo with the other ladies in the back room, Marcy responded casually. Screw that. I'm out. Let's go, Jerry, Melissa declared, turning on her heel without a second glance. As they walked to their cars, they encountered Sonia approaching. Did you know about the stripper? Jerry questioned. Yeah, Sonia admitted. Is he here yet? No, and we're not sticking around. Our husbands would lose it if they found out we were here with a stripper. Well, mine doesn't care, and I'm going to enjoy the show. See you later. Sonia shrugged, heading back inside. Jerry turned to Melissa, suggesting, Want to catch a movie or something? Not really. No one's home at my place. You want to come over? I know the guys are at your place, Melissa proposed. Sounds good. If we go to my place, we'll end up playing hostesses all night. Your place sounds much better, Jerry agreed. I've got that Chardonnay you like chilling in the fridge, Melissa added. Perfect. That's it for me, Mel. I'm gonna Uber home, Jerry announced after finishing her last glass of wine. All right. It's getting late, and Joe will be back soon, Melissa replied. Shower up and get ready to pounce on him, Jerry suggested with a smirk. I like the way you think, Melissa chuckled, wiping sweat from her forehead. As Melissa was finishing her shower, Joe entered the bedroom. Hey, baby. How was cigar night? She greeted him. Joe found it peculiar that she was showering so late and responded, Fine. Played some cards, lost a bit, but enjoyed a cigar from Don's Special Humidor. Ooh, the good stuff. Well, the boys will be home at midnight, so I have half an hour to ravish you, Melissa teased. Joe grinned. Let's get to ravishing, then. The next morning, Joe's phone rang, jolting him awake. Yeah, he grumbled into the phone. Those women had a stripper last night. Saw the pictures on Sonia's phone, Brad exclaimed. Wait, what? A stripper? Joe's heart raced. Yeah, Joe. Sonia and I have the same phone, and I picked hers up by mistake. There are photos of her and Marcy with some muscle guy, him taking pictures with her phone. Holy shit! Joe's outburst woke Melissa. What's wrong? She asked, alarmed. Brad, let me call you back, Joe said hurriedly before ending the call and turning to Melissa, his eyes burning with accusation. Strippers? What the hell, Melissa? Did you participate? His voice trembled with anger. No. Jerry and I left, I swear, Melissa pleaded. Then where did you go? Joe demanded, his suspicions escalating. Here, we came here, Melissa responded, panic rising in her voice. God damn it. I knew something was off when you showered last night. Did you sleep with him? Is that why you had to shower, to wash off his scent and come? Joe's accusation hung heavy in the air. Joe, you're being irrational. I showered because I got sweaty sitting outside. I wasn't involved, Melissa protested, desperation evident in her voice. Prove it, Joe demanded, his trust shattered. What? How do I prove it? Wait. Jerry's car is still here, Melissa exclaimed, a glimmer of hope in her voice. I didn't see her car when I got home, Joe countered. Look outside, Melissa urged. Joe stormed downstairs with Melissa following closely behind. They opened the front door and scanned the driveway and street, but Jerry's car was nowhere to be seen. Damn it! She told me she was taking an Uber, Melissa muttered in frustration. Joe dialed Don's number. Hey man, is Jerry with you? Joe questioned urgently. Yeah, she's right here. Why? Don responded, confusion evident in his voice. Brad called me and said he has pictures of Sonia and Marcy with a stripper last night, Joe explained tersely. Blowing a stripper? Don exclaimed, disbelief coloring his tone. As Jerry began talking in the background, Joe heard the call abruptly end. Melissa's phone rang at that moment. Melissa, tell him where we were last night. Don doesn't believe me, Joe instructed. Put him on, Melissa requested, her voice trembling slightly. Well? Don prompted anxiously. Don, I swear we were both here until 11:15. We left the party, Melissa pleaded. Yeah, after the stripper left, I'm sure. Don retorted skeptically. Melissa collapsed to her knees as the call ended. Joe stormed past her, his anger palpable. Melissa heard him dialing Brad's number. Can you see Mel or Jerry in any of the pictures? Joe questioned curtly. No, Bud. I looked through them all, and I don't see them in any of the ones she took, Brad responded. Okay, thanks, Joe muttered before ending the call. As Joe sat at the kitchen table, deep in thought, Melissa approached him and handed him her phone. What's that for? Joe asked, puzzled. You can look at my pictures, Melissa suggested, her voice tinged with desperation. What's that gonna prove? You were probably smart enough not to take any incriminating pictures. I'm sure your two friends regret it this morning, Joe replied bitterly. They're not sluts. Marcy is single for Christ's sake, Melissa defended, her voice cracking with emotion. Sonia isn't, but that doesn't matter. Brad was telling us last night he thought she was cheating on him. I guess he has his proof now, Joe retorted coldly. Melissa gasped in shock. Oh, no. Joe stood up abruptly, his gaze piercing. Did you know? Did you know she was cheating on him? No. She's not cheating on him. At least if she is, she never told me, Melissa protested, tears streaming down her face. Yet here she is at Marcy's house with a stripper. Real faithful wife-like behavior, Joe snapped, his frustration boiling over. Melissa sank into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Joe, I swear we left and came here. I would never lie to you. This is tearing me apart, Melissa. I want to believe you, but I'm struggling here, Joe admitted, his voice softening slightly. Melissa stood and reached out to hug him, but he didn't respond. I need some air, Joe declared, retreating to the bedroom to get dressed. As he left the room, Jimmy emerged from his own room. What's going on, Pop? Jimmy inquired, concern etched on his face. Nothing, son. Just some adult drama. Nothing for you to worry about, Joe replied, trying to sound reassuring. Jimmy nodded and headed to the bathroom. Melissa was still weeping in the kitchen as Joe walked out to his car. Just as he was about to leave, he received a text from Dawn, meet me at IHOP in half an hour. Frowning, Joe replied, on my way. When he arrived at IHOP, he found Dawn and Brad already seated. Hey, guys, Joe greeted them tersely. They both nodded in acknowledgement, and Joe took a seat. Dawn began, Jerry's a mess. I might have gone a bit too far with the name-calling. Got some damage control to do. Brad revealed, Sonia swears it was her only time cheating on me. She said she only sucked him for 20 seconds or so. She also said that your wives left before the stripper got there. Joe felt torn. He still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that they had a party with strippers. Was the review show the week before just a warm-up act? I don't know what to do, guys, Joe admitted, his frustration evident. Brad chimed in, dude, Sonia blamed me for this shit. She said I don't care about her and all I care about is sports. She never told me that the girls all went to a strip club last week. I would have said no. Joe snapped, you at least know she sucked on that stripper. We have to trust that ours didn't, and honestly, I've been cheated on before, and I'm struggling with it. Don interjected, you still won't go to a family party if Alex is there. It must hurt deeply. Joe nodded solemnly. She was screwing Alex since the day after she met him at our family reunion. It took less than a day to get in her pants, and they continued until I caught them a year after the wedding. Joe's principles on fidelity and trust were unshakable, and they didn't bend. He was somewhat stubborn and believed that a promise made is a promise kept with no exceptions. He looked down on people who broke their word and held grudges long after the fact if he was the victim of the broken word. I don't know how we prove they left, Don pondered. If she just would have taken the damn Uber, we would have the location from where she was picked up. Joe turned to Brad and asked, what are you going to do? Divorce. We don't have any kids, and we make pretty close to the same amount. It'll be an easy split, Brad replied matter-of-factly. Damn. Sorry, man, Don sympathized, thinking about how difficult divorce would be for him. Don and Jerry had kids, but at 20 and 21, they were older than Joe and Melissa's. They owned some rental properties in an LLC they split ownership of. They also had another business that they jointly owned, but Jerry ran as her main employment. Don flipped houses as his primary employment and held that business in an LLC where he was an 80% owner, with Joe holding the other 20%. Joe had given him a large sum of money to buy his first few houses and still contributed from his share of the profit. Don didn't even want to contemplate the issues with separating the businesses and navigating the buyouts and splits of the assets and holdings. He knew it would be a nightmare. Beyond those headaches, Don loved Jerry with all his heart and soul. He was torn, and his heart ached. What are you going to do, Don? Joe inquired, hoping it would help him decide. Don shook his head, feeling overwhelmed. I don't know. I don't have any proof she did anything wrong. Nor do I have any proof that she was even there. I'm starting to feel like we're overreacting to this. Joe frowned. I don't think we're overreacting, but I think we need to cool off and settle the situation down before we mess up our marriages beyond repair. Agreed, Don said, realizing he had already crossed the line. At Don's house, Melissa and Jerry brainstormed ways to help their husbands understand their perspective. They felt unjustly punished despite making the right choice by leaving the party early. I understand why Joe is so upset, Melissa began, especially after what that woman Sherry did to him. But I can't fathom why Don is reacting this way. I didn't know about Sherry, Jerry admitted. When I met Don, he had just been through a tough breakup. She cheated on him with some wealthy guy and left him for greener pastures. Oh, wow. I had no idea, Melissa sympathized. Jerry nodded, offering a small smile. It's not something we discuss with others. We decided to start fresh together and put it all behind us. What about your brother and Joe's ex-wife? All Joe ever told me was that she cheated on him with Alex, Melissa inquired. It's a wild story, Mel. We all met her at a family reunion. Joe and Sherry seemed deeply in love from the outside, or at least that's what Joe conveyed to me. Melissa nodded, familiar with Joe's capacity for love firsthand. Alex and I were chatting, and Joe and Sherry joined us. Joe and I were catching up since I hadn't seen him since college. He and Alex were close friends from their time at State. That's surprising, Melissa exclaimed. Yeah. Anyway, Alex and Sherry hit it off. She was just starting as a realtor, and Alex pretended he was interested in buying a house. It was just an excuse to swap numbers. Why would he do that? Melissa asked. Alex confessed later that he was getting back at Joe for allegedly sleeping with his girlfriend. But it turns out, Joe never slept with her. It was a different Joe, a friend of Alex's, who did. Wow, that's insane, Melissa said, shocked. Yeah, it spiraled into an affair. Joe and Sherry got married, but she kept seeing Alex whenever he was available. He traveled a lot for work. They got caught when Alex was with her at a summer party in my mom's house, and Joe's dad walked in on them. Uncle Ray actually punched Alex out. It was chaotic. Poor Joe, Melissa sighed. He was devastated for a long time. Until he met you, Jerry said, offering a reassuring smile. Sherry begged for forgiveness, blaming Alex for misleading her. But Joe saw through it and ended things abruptly. I can't lose him, Jerry. He's my everything. We have to find a solution, Melissa pleaded. We'll figure it out. I don't know how, but we'll fix it, Jerry assured her. Later, Joe and Don sat on Joe's deck, puffing on cigars. Don gazed over Joe's expansive backyard and confessed, I'm going to head home later and apologize. I can't prove anything, and I was too harsh on her. I can't do that just yet, Don. Firstly, they went to that strip club show last week, and then the very next time they meet up, they have a stripper at their house party? It's not adding up to innocence for me. Joe, we have no proof. We've both been burned, man. It took a long time for me to fully trust Melissa. She never knew I didn't trust her for the first few years, but it was hard. It seems I never did learn to fully trust her after all. Joe, we're grasping at straws trying to prove a negative. We just can't know for sure where they were or what they did. I feel like we're coming across as hard-nosed assholes, risking our marriages. My marriage is already at risk, damn it. Can't you see that it's too coincidental they had a stripper the very next week after that show? It's like they tried to ease us into the idea with the strip club show and then slammed it home with the private stripper. If Sonia wasn't so damn stupid, we may have never known at all. I'm sorry, Joe. You're on your own with this now. I'm going home and I'm going to try to make it right with Jerry. I'm not letting her completely off the hook. I'll set some ground rules, and the girls' nights have to stop. But I think we're being too unreasonable. Joe couldn't believe the sudden and complete turnaround from Don. Mere hours before, he was furious, and now he was retracting his stance. Joe wasn't sure he could do that. That's your call, Don. I'm not going to be made a cuckold by my wife. Even if she didn't have sex with him, touching or being touched by a naked man is not acceptable in my book. Joe, I think you're a fool if you throw away your marriage over a stripper that she didn't have sex with. I guess that's on me then. Melissa walked in as Don was walking out. She looked at Joe and started crying. I'm sorry, Joe. I just don't know what I can do to prove I was here. I swear, we did the right thing. Me either, Mel. Joe, Jerry told me the whole story about Sherry and Alex. I'm sorry that happened to you. I wish I could fix that pain. You did fix that pain, love. You've given me the best of you, and it was everything I needed. It's all I'll ever need. Except now I have a new pain, a new betrayal, and I can't deal with it. Please, Joe, she sobbed. I'm going to get a room at a motel tonight. I need to be alone and try to figure this out. I'm lost, Mel. I'm really lost. He turned and went to pack a bag. Melissa sat on the couch and cried. A moment later, the kids walked in and saw her. Mom, what's wrong? Nothing for you to worry about, Jimmy. Your dad and I are having some problems. It'll be okay. What did you do, Dad? Jimmy asked Joe, who had come down the stairs with an overnight bag. I didn't do anything, son. Your mom and I are working through some things, and it's not any of your business what it's about, okay? Fine. Treat us like kids, whatever. Jimmy stormed off, and Jack said, When are you coming back? He pointed to the bag in Joe's hand. Maybe tomorrow, maybe a few days, I don't know. Stay in touch, huh? I will, son. I promise. Melissa sobbed as Joe walked out the door. Jack sat next to her and hugged her. It'll be okay, Mom. It'll work out. I hope so, Jack. I really hope so. 2 days went by with Joe no closer to a decision. He had enough of sleeping in a motel and checked out. When he walked in the door at home, no one was home, and the alarm was set. He entered his code and shouted, "Son of a bitch." He ran to their computer and pulled up the website for the alarm company. He pulled up his history report and saw the time the alarm was turned off the night Melissa and Jerry were supposedly at his house. "Are you home for good or just visiting?" Melissa asked from behind with a sneer. He stood, walked over to her, and then took her in his arms, and she sobbed from relief. "I'm so sorry, Joe. I'm the one who should be sorry. I went into attack mode and never gave you the benefit of the doubt. I'm sorry I didn't trust that you did the right thing. I guess after all these years, I've still got some issues. Are we okay? Do you believe me? When I came home and turned off the alarm, it hit me. I checked the history log and I saw what time you put in the code. It backed up your story. I'm sorry I didn't think of it before, and I've been an ass." She laughed and kissed him. "We have to have some new rules, though. The stripper and review show problem isn't resolved. It's a non-starter for me going forward. It's over." "That's fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. What else?" "Marcy and Sonia are out. So you're telling me who I can be friends with now?" "If that's the way you see it, yes. Sonia cheated on her husband and Marcy supported it. Those are not the kind of people I want to associate with, and I don't want you getting dragged down a bad path by them." She sighed and said, "I understand. I think we'll be drifting apart anyway. Sonia's getting divorced now. She was served with papers today, and you're right. I can see her and Marcy wanting to go out looking for guys. Jerry and I will not be doing that." He hugged her and said, "I love you, and I am sorry that I didn't trust you. As long as you're back and not leaving me again, we can get past this. You're my only love and my only lover. I don't need anyone else. You just have to believe that." "I know. Where are the kids?" she asked. "Allie's house, according to the note they left." "Let's go upstairs then," she said with a smile. "I haven't had you in almost a week. I'm in withdrawal. I've got just what you need, baby." Joe followed her, watching her tight butt, and thought, yeah, life is good. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new videos.